me, Karan Ashley. Welcome to the BOP, the Blurred Official Podcast. We are here and we are excited to be spending some time with all of you. Oh my gosh, Hilton George, how are you, Hilton? How have you been?
Last time we spoke, we were all buried under 8 inches of snow, and we were trying to survive, we were digging our little holes for hibernation, and now it's sunny and 54 degrees, and
Insane.
I'm like, it doesn't make any sense at all. The world is just topsy-turvy, in a
Yes.
good way, though, in a good way.
Yes. I don't know if it's in a good way, but it's in a crazy way. It is in a good way for us because we're very positive people. And so, oh my gosh. Guys, today we've got the one and only David Fielding in the house, filling in for Christy Renee. Oh my gosh. David, how are you?
Thank you for having me back. Thank you for having me back. It's
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are a fan favorite of our show. We love having you. We love talking to you. And I mean, guys, it is a perfect day for him to come on because, of course, we get a trailer that we got to watch and we're going to have live reactions to. It dropped this morning and I was like, don't watch it. Don't watch it.
I have no idea what's coming.
We'll watch it on the show. Oh my gosh. But yeah, guys, the world has been insane. It has been insane. So I am so excited that we're all together. We're going to have some fun. Like literally, I feel like the BOP, and people have told me this, it is a good way to distract them from like what is really going on in this world. This is how I've been feeling. I like stay off the news channels. I stay off of social media a lot more now because I'm just like, I can't deal every day. Every day it's something.
Well,
I can't
the good
deal.
news is that there are executive orders in the works to get rid of all of those things, so you won't have to worry about it anymore.
Obviously. Oh my gosh. And see, this is the thing, man. We knew this was going to happen. We were begging people to go out and vote. We were begging people to be responsible, and we ended up back in the circus. And I'm just like, how much is a ticket to anywhere?
Karen, now you did your job. California did the right thing.
We did.
I live in Maryland. Maryland did the right thing. I'm a little too close to what happened in Virginia. I'm looking across the Potomac with a little leery eye, but
yeah,
what can you do? The Electoral College does not allow us to make a difference if we're in one of those states or one of those areas that just
it's
is what
such
it
a
is.
racket.
So,
it is such a racket. Like, I'm just like, what the, like, how are we on, how is this how it works? Like, it is such a racket. You're right. We did our job. And I really believe, like, the great thing about this show is we got people fired up. We were responsible people telling people to vote. And so we did exactly what we wanted to do. But here we are in the circus. And look, I am Black History, by the way. So just so you know, we celebrate Black History here on the BOP. We will not be distracted or needing permission from anybody. I'm fired up today. I'm fired up, guys.
She watched CNN before the show.
Oh my God. You know what? I honestly have not watched. I watched I Want to Send Out Love. I Want to Send Out, because right where you are, the horrific plane crash that happened, like that was the first time I'd watched the news since the election, because I just was like, I can't take it. And I fly into DCA all the time. So that was just, it shook me to my core.
That's the craziest thing I've ever seen, just to have a full-blown accident. Not a machine failure, not a mechanical failure, not a terrorist attack, just a collision that close to the runway. They were 35 seconds from landing, and for them to and the plane was only in like 7 or 8 feet of water. It's not a deep ravine they were in, and still there were no survivors. That just tells you how bad an impact it was. And the water was 35 degrees, and it's just everything came together to make it more of a disaster than it could ever been. And I thought it was made up. I was like, there's no way, right over the Potomac, and then you see the video and all of that, and it caught a lot of us off guard over here. Yeah,
it was awful. It was awful. Well, prayers and love to all those beautiful souls, because man, that was horrific. There was nothing. Like you said, it was probably one of the biggest and most tragic accidents that I think we've witnessed in our lifetime. It was just awful. But we're gonna lighten up things, because I mean, like I said, this show our goal for 2025 and the next 4 years is to distract you from all the craziness that's going on. We are going to have
Switzerland.
Yes, we are gonna have fun, and if nothing else, for an hour, we're gonna laugh, we're gonna cry, we're gonna do it all, but we're gonna do it with a smile on our face. And guys, oh my gosh, you guys know how big a fan we are. Huge fans of Marvel. We are a huge fan of everything, and this is actually one of the movies that I have been waiting for. We got a trailer this morning for the fan.
All have been waiting for this movie for 20 years.
Yes.
Even as this movie has been happening,
Yes.
we were at the end of every Fantastic Four movie. We were waiting for a Fantastic Four movie.
Yes, okay. and I don't know, but I've been, the buzz around town is, obviously they got it right this time. Let's see. We're gonna get our first look. So guys, you haven't seen the trailer. None of us have seen the trailer. We are going to watch it right now with you. Ah! Okay.
Welcome to the Baxter Building.
We make a point to do family dinner every week. Sunday at 7, on the dot, no matter what. We're all here.
Herbie, how's that sauce coming?
Yeah, I'll be the judge of that.
Okay. Okay, is this guy good or what?
I want to add a couple cloves of garlic. Not because it's not delicious, I just want to add a little bit of zip, okay?
T-5.
Before we went up the first time, you couldn't turn invisible. Ben wasn't a rock.
The best pilot in the world right here.
Yeah. Best looking, he means.
And Johnny never caught fire.
Ben has always been a rock. Johnny is Johnny.
Hi.
And I am right here. Whatever life throws at us, we'll face it together.
Ooh.
As a family.
First step. Oh my
Nice.
God. We got a little sneak peek. We got a little something. I'm surprised it didn't give us more, but okay, what are our first reactions, Hilton?
They can only give us so much, right? Because there is only so much, right?
I'm like
put
one of
so
those.
much
I need
thought
more
into these trailers and what they include as they tease forward. I mean, I'm surprised we got as much as we got.
For
we
sure.
saw John Malkovich, right? Who's in there? I assume he's playing Mole Man. That's my goal. That's
so.
But
I've heard other speculation about his character, but yeah.
Yeah, there's some speculation out there, but what the key is that we see Galactus, and we got a glimpse of his scale,
Finally,
and his scope,
Finally.
and you got to remember, the Fantastic Four were not a superhero team, right? Until there was a threat, right? They were just this curiosity. They're living in the future. And I love the stylized world that has been built here. You can see Jack Kirby's fingerprints all throughout this, and just the way that they've been faithful to certain things and they've updated certain things. The Thing doesn't have that growly voice. They let him keep the actor keep his voice, which I think is going to be really interesting.
It makes him more human, more relatable.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been known to have that "it's clobbering time" type of voice, and if they're going to let him just have a normal, vocal intonation, I'm interested to see what that is. But I love the look. I love the palette. It looks like World of the Future from the '60s. I don't know if you remember those old Tex Avery cartoons, World of the Future, where all the things are all. Everything's got fins.
It kind of had a feel from Captain America: The First Avenger, where they go to the Stark Expo. It has kind of that, again, the retro feel of it. And I don't know if that was the first iteration of the Fantastic Car, but I love the retro look of that vehicle. It was awesome. And
retro futuristic. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Well, it is today. We started it here first, guys. We started here first. It's not. I know.
And they're a family.
It too. Yeah. I think that was like, I feel like it definitely sparked my interest. It definitely, like, I feel like for the first time, it doesn't feel like, I always feel like the mistake they always made is like what you said. They start them off as just superheroes. We've never really gotten a movie where they're just, you know, these are people and these things happen to them, and it wasn't like they chose this. It wasn't like they were born with this. It's like now they have to deal with it, and then they realize, like, we weren't given this for just, you know, no reason. There has to be a reason why we have this, and we've got to make it, you know, it's almost like they grow into their superhero-ness of it all, you know? And I felt like Marvel did really well with that when they, you know, did the latest, like, Spider-Mans, and, like, just dealing with the pressure of having to be, like, something like this falls on you and you're just like, what do I do? Like, you know? And and just seeing them prior to, and like when they just did the flashback of the Thing, like before he was the Thing, you know. And what I will say is I'm loving the cast. Like every single one of these people, that they've all been in movies or been characters that I have absolutely loved, and they're like I love Vanessa Kirby. I've loved her since The Crown. Like I think that was the first thing that I like latched onto her career, and I've just been like, oh. And you know, Eben Moss, like he's the guy who's on The Bear, and is like, he literally in every scene he just like explodes in that. And so yeah, and so I can't wait. And you know, Pedro Pascal, I mean, I can't get enough of him. And Joseph Quinn, I mean, guys, y'all know how I am about Stranger Things. And I mean, Eddie, like, we are still hoping and praying that Eddie comes alive in season 5 in Stranger Things. So it's like, to see his career go from, you know, he was this character actor, and even in Stranger Things, I think they put him in there as this character actor, and no one thought his character would explode the way that it does. But they always have something or someone that explodes off the screen in that show. And so now to see him as the Human Torch and to be a part of the Marvel Universe, I love it. I can't wait to see what they do with him. And it's like, again, it's just building upon that that younger, like, given, I don't know, it's like we went through Marvel with all the same actors for like the last 10, 15 years. And so now it's like the new energy, the new feel. So I don't know, this, I'm excited about this one. You know, it's almost like we got a little bit of something to watch.
Yeah, they're doing something that they haven't done with the previous iterations of the Fantastic Four, and that's world building. And this also, to David's point, is a retro period piece. This is in the 60s, right? And this is where the actual time period where the first comic came out. And I think that this may be the solution. One, this is already happening in a universe separate to the MCU we've been watching. And where that's a known, that's not a question thing. Right. And so we're going to have a whole new world to explore. The key is that, based off what I've read, is that there is one version or another of almost every character that we have met in the MCU world in this world, right? We're not going to get to meet them all in this movie, but that's going to be a given. It's going to be like, okay, there's a Captain America. Okay, there's an Iron Man. There, you know, that exists in this world, but it's not going to be part of the movie per se. We may get some cameos, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that world.
Is this the same world that we got a glimpse of at the end of the Marvels with
Rambo?
That's a question. I don't know if it's that Earth.
Because the X-Men were existing in that world. So again, is this sort of the incursion of the
I think so.
Universe meeting their universe or whatever?
Yeah.
So.
I think it is, and here's why I think. I think this is going to be where they introduce Doom. It might not be this particular movie, but it will be this world. I think we're also going to get to see the recast of Black Panther in this world, because this is the world that he was introduced in the comics. Yeah. So we have this premise that, okay, here's a different reality, and here's a place where we know Black Panther exists, and we know that the Black Panther and Wakanda are cross paths with the Fantastic Four at some point. So I think this is going to be a vehicle for whatever reboot we're gonna see going forward.
I think it's very interesting that they sort of rubber banded back to the very beginning of Marvel Comics, because the Fantastic Four was, you know, I think like the initial jumping off point for Marvel. I think they existed before the Avengers took off or whatever. So going back after establishing the Avengers and doing that whole through line, now they're rubber banding back to the very beginning, and I think that's very interesting. So,
how do we feel?
I have been told.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I've been told that this will be one of the worlds that will, for the Doom movies, there'll be I think 2 or 3 of them. World War Doom or War World that Doom builds in the comics will be made up of this and other realities. And that world is where everyone's going to kind of come together. It will be the Infinity Saga of this next phase. And I think this will be the centerpiece of that, like where all that comes from, because it is Doom. And I also hear that they're going to be bringing Kang back in Jonathan Majors at some point, at least long enough to kill him off.
Damn it.
I'll tell you what I read. I'll be interested to see how that plays out. But this will be the world that will be kind of central to that, and I think it's going to have something to do with Galactus and Shalabal, who will be the Silver Surfer instead of Norrin Radd. And that's a twist. Some people are happy with it. Some people are not. We won't go into that. But
well, I will say this: Benedict Cumberbatch, he has confirmed that he's going to be in the Doom movies. Like he said something this week that kind of, and so it's like they're building this world to be able to pull all these people. How do we feel though? Like how do I don't know how I feel, because I love the way Wakanda Forever ended, where we got young T'Challa, and it was like, okay, like we'll get T'Challa again, but it's going to be his son. It's like I felt good about that. Now, like you said, they're kind of opening up this world where this is a different time, different different world, and we could get a T'Challa that is different from, and everybody, we're still so like,
Well, let's be open for a second. Remember, if this is technically 45 years ago or 50 years ago in this reality,
it'd be T'Chaka.
T'Challa's not king. It wouldn't even be T'Chaka. It might even be his father. So we don't know which Black Panther or which king of Wakanda we may encounter. But that's a license that I think Kevin Feige is going to play around with, and I'm interested.
I think it's fascinating that the way that superhero movies used to be made to how they're being made now, which is all the superheroes before existed in their own reality. They were just separate. There was
like singular.
There was just Spider-Man in his world. There was just Superman in his world. There was just Batman in their world.
No overlap.
Now the audience understands and can parse that all of these characters exist at the same time, and we understand where they're coming from. So yes, tell us those stories of multiple Black Panthers or multiple Iron Mans. I mean, we get it. Let's do that. So I think that's very fascinating. But I was just so happy to see that they finally did the outline of Galactus, and he had the horned helmet, and I'm like, finally, thank you very much. That's all we wanted.
Oh my gosh, it still hurts my soul to have Thundercloud Galactus, back in the 90s. I said, I swear, if he goes in the center of that and there's no Galactus with the helmet and the horns, I'm like, he's a giant thundercloud, and I'm just, why?
What always perplexed me is, like, in the 90s, like, what were they doing? Like, whoever was in charge of the Fantastic Four, like, they tried, but they always would go too far away from, like, the original. Like, you got the original meat. Like, here we have all these comics. Like, why are we trying to invent the wheel? This works. Like, and it almost seems like it wasn't until they, like, Marvel, like, Kevin Feige came in and he goes, no, every single movie you have to stay true to certain things, because this is the meat of our bone. Like, we can play around here, but we got to keep it real, for our OG fans. And it has always worked.
Are we gonna see the ultimate nullifier? I mean, are we gonna see that? Let's bring it out.
We can only hope.
Depending on what they do with Galactus, we may, and that's my point. I think that the failure of the multiverse saga is squarely on Marvel in telling that story. I think they got way too caught up in knots. I think they tried to do too many things too fast. The audience can understand. We grew up watching Doctor Who. We watch Rick and Morty. We've seen multiverse stories being told all throughout, if you really, really want to break it down. And so we know we can absorb the concept of it. And I just think they got too caught in the weeds and too caught in trying to perfect characters, and the storylines got frayed and all that sort of thing. And I think they've just regrouped, and I hope that they tell the story of this world without telling too much about the story of this world, if that makes sense. It's like, do we have to spend the first 25 minutes of every Spider-Man movie, of every Superman movie, showing their origin and all this? I'm like, there's a certain amount that we can just say, okay, look, we can give you the broad strokes, and let's get down to the meat of the characters and show you this world, because the world, I believe, is going to be as much a character in the storytelling and the plot as the actual cast and the dialogue and the script. And if they focus on that, I think there won't be anything that they can't do, because the Fantastic Four was a vehicle to visit all of these other worlds. In the comic book world, they were the ones that were physically going into all these realities, the negative zone, the underground worlds, these different realities, space. Like, they went further into space and different empires and galactic, no pun intended, scenarios than any other comic book label. True. And if they do this right, they could be the vehicle that Marvel Cinematic uses.
I kind of hope that they don't bridge at the end of this movie into the MCU. I hope that it's kind of self-contained, and then they have another movie that does that. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm with you. I mean, I want to be immersed in that retro world for,
Right. Don't bring me back to where we've been for the last 20 years.
I just love the look of the buildings and the car, and the style of it is just great. I love it. So
yeah. You know what is so funny is, like, today they had, obviously they did this whole release of the trailer. They did this whole thing. There's a Comic-Con who I'm really good friends with the owner, and he's such a great person. It's Huntsville Comic-Con in Huntsville, Alabama. And they did this at the space station. And little did I know, when we first went to Alabama, David and I, it's so funny, we did the show together. But who knew this was a big hub for NASA? I always thought it was just in Houston, Texas, and Florida, or Cape Canaveral or wherever. I had no idea. They build rocket ships and they do all this. So they had this huge thing. And literally this morning, while I was getting ready for this show, he said on his Facebook that him and his son got up at 4 a.m. They stood in line to go to this event, and they saw the cast, they saw the trailer. It was a really, really cool thing. He was like, me and my son will never forget this. It was so cool. And I was like, how cool? Well, first of all, dang, he's real fan. I don't know that I'm getting up at 4 a.m. for anything. So kudos to him. I don't even know if I'd get up at 4 a.m. for Beyonce. So that just puts it in perspective for me. But I thought it was so cool that they are really, this isn't a movie. We're not going to get it until July, but just for the trailer, they said, this is what we're going to do, and we're really going to roll it out. And so I think, guys, like you said, you guys have made me want to go back and read Fantastic Four comics, because I am
like you said,
not as versed as you guys are on it.
It's not coming out until July, so we'll get a full trailer before then, and that's where we might hear It's Clobbering Time or Flame On or all of the Hallmark stuff from Fantastic. Well, we didn't get to see Reed stretch, so
that's true. We didn't get to see any of the elasticity.
Right.
We got little flashes of the Invisible Woman doing her thing, but
that looked really cool.
The treatment of what we did see was interesting too.
Yeah. It looked really, really cool. Just the stuff that we did.
We didn't really get to see Ben, do his strength thing either. He was just him running or whatever, and Johnny flying in flames, but no real heroic kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, it was more inspirational. It was more almost these people are going to inspire you, and you got a taste of their struggle and what they're about to bring, the inspiration they're about to bring.
I will make a light recommendation before we move on.
Yes.
To your point, anyone who's trying to read up on the Fantastic Four, it is a different kind of comic book writing. Go back to one. You go to issue 1, Jack Kirby. One of the greatest comic book artists and cell artists you've ever seen. Just tells an amazing story. And then if you have to skip to anything beyond that initial, go to the John Byrne era, of the Fantastic Four. That writing is really instructive, and it's fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, which was really interesting. It's not so much a superhero comic. It's just like what we got from this trailer, where this world, these guys are superstars. They're not.
Understand and read everything with a grain of salt, because the FF and the early Avengers were pretty much soap operas where you just had these characters who would bicker and fight and have their personal issues, and then they also punch bad guys in the face. So
right. Well, you think about it, David. There weren't that many big bad villains in the early Marvel. You had Doctor Doom. You would introduce big guys like Galactus, and then 4 issues later, they will have beat him, solved the problem, banished him, whatever, and then they're back to, like you said, the bread and butter of just Johnny Storm gets an apartment that's got roaches, and Ben Grimm is dating.
Every day.
Type of storytelling. Yeah.
You knew that every book there would be at least 2 panels of Johnny and Ben Grimm, trying to punch each other because he's a hothead and he's always making fun of me and blah blah blah. So.
That might be kind of cool, though, to focus on more of, because, like, they did a little bit of that with, Iron Man and Captain America, where they didn't always see eye to eye, and there was always this internal.
They did that in the 90s movies with Chris Evans and Michael Chiklis.
Yeah. I got to rewatch those, too, because I watched all of them, but I really can't remember them. Like, it was like, really? I know, like, it's like one of those things where I just wasn't, like, I thought they were cool, but I wasn't, like, moved. Like, I wasn't, like, how I felt when I walked out of Iron Man, or how I felt when I walked out of, like, Spider-Man, Like, I wasn't, like, oh, like, screaming at the top of my lungs and running around in a circle. It was really weird. Really, really weird. So.
I think that was the key to a lot of the success of the early world building of the MCU, is that at some point they made a decision. They said, look, every movie that we put out is not set to be this billion-dollar blockbuster. We're going to put out, the first Avenger, hope it does good numbers, but we have to establish a character so that we can kind of continue the world building. And they would go to the next movie. And, people complained about Thor and the Dark World, but you think about, these were tools, these were means to an end.
You needed that,
don't get an end game if you don't have Dark World, if you don't have First Avenger, if you don't have Age of Ultron. They all were like, okay, every third movie is going to be like a blockbuster, but every movie is not going to have to.
You're right. It couldn't all be like, Civil War. It couldn't all be that. Like, they had to literally.
And now they are looking and they
stories.
And to your point, Karen, one of the failures that they've had in this last run is that they had that expectation of Quantumania. They had that expectation of Multiverse of Madness.
Yes.
And they did great numbers. They did, $300, $400, $500 million, but because it didn't do $1 billion or close to $1 billion in its opening week, they said, oh, this is not, the audience doesn't like it. Let's change course. And you do that 5 or 6 times, and now everybody's lost. So I hope that they take
the pandemic, and the writers' strike and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Really
absolutely.
But can't ignore that the key to everything and the linchpin of what launched the success of the MCU was Nick Fury showing up at the end teaser at the end of Iron Man and doing what the comic book fans have wanted for so long, is like acknowledging that everybody exists at the same time.
Yes.
And we were like, yes,
screaming like, and we were dying.
There's a hammer in the middle of the Southwest desert. That's all that we see.
Oh my gosh. Well, guys, I am super excited. Like we said, Marvel has so many things. I mean, we literally are close to the new Captain America. Like, yes, we are counting down the days. I mean, I was telling David, I got my tickets too. I literally am going to be at a con in Stockton, California that weekend, and I have kidnapped Nakia Burrese. She is going to see Captain America with me. And she was like, what? She didn't even know it was coming out. And I was like, oh my God, I don't even know how you're my friend.
You know how to deal. You know your girl. You just like, I'm going to buy the tickets, then I'm going to tell her.
Yeah, I did. And I told her we're going on Friday, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, okay. Because we fly in and we go see the movie. And then the next day the con starts. And so she's like, okay, I'm ready. She's excited. So that's how we're doing it. But we took on a new show this week. It was like, I'd been seeing the trailers for this. I'd been seeing people were talking about it online. It was on my list to watch. And finally I was like, guys, maybe we should watch this. I mean, it's the first 3 episodes that have been released so far. I think the 4th is coming any minute now. But it is Paradise. Paradise is a new series that is on Hulu. It stars Sterling K. Brown, James Marsden. It is such an interesting show. And I love a thriller. I love something that is, out of the box. And David knows this. David has known me for years. I love for something to just drip. Like it's just like a slow drip to where we're going to go. And it's like all these clues, But what this show is based on is it's almost like present day. Starts off, there's this woman, they refer to her as Sinatra, but she's like a tech genius, and she talks about just casually in a bar that she just sold some tech that she created and like made $300 billion trillion, something crazy, right? And so in the process of that, she loses her son. Like she has a son and he's super young. It's like to cancer. It's just awful, right? So she's put in a place in her life where she's just looking at the world of like, it is so fragile. It is so like one day you're here, the next day you're not, and she goes to like this conference where there's this guy, he's like doing a conference and it's hilarious because there's all these other flashy, talks and they're having like these TED talks and there's like these flashy ones and everybody's lining up to get in those. But the one important one, which is on the environment and on like the things that we need to worry about, nobody is hardly in there. And he's talking about there is going to be a catastrophic event, a catastrophic, event with the weather. And it's like a tsunami is going to come and just kill everybody, kill the world that we know. And so in that moment and in the grief and in all the stuff that she's dealing with, she realizes she could lose her daughter also. And so she has, driven to create this world called Paradise. So I think at that moment they create this world. So when the world does end, this is where they can go and take refuge. So then we cut to, the president of the United States. He's being guarded by Sterling K. Brown and all these things. And you realize that they are living in paradise. This is the place. And the world has literally ended. Everybody did not make it into paradise. This place it looks like a city, but it is a manufactured place where even the sunshine is fake. Everything is just, created to make them feel like they live in paradise so they don't miss the world that they're in. But of course they do. And we open up on the very first episode of the president is murdered. And Sterling K. Brown walks in and is like, what the hell like, what is happening? But along with this murder, it's immediately conspiracy because the secrets of all the president has been stolen. And so he knows, and he has a very strong hunch that Sinatra, who created this place and runs this world, has something to do with it, or at least the powers that be that run paradise. Something is afoot, But I wanted to get you guys just your first impression. We're going to start with Hilton, and then David will go to you. But just your first impression on this series, because it is a slow burn. But it's got some really good actors and some really good storytelling. And I just want to see what you guys thought. We watched the first 3 episodes, so spoiler alert.
Yeah, we're going to have to put a spoiler alert on here somewhere because we're going to do it. But
yes.
I think what doesn't come through in your explanation is that you're describing it in its linear form.
Right.
And the story is being told in flashes forward and backward.
Yeah.
It's 15 years ago. It's 5 years from now. It's like, it's really bouncing around. It's today. So you're already on your heels as the viewer because you don't know where or when this seemingly normal present space is taking place. We know something's not quite right.
Right. You feel it from the beginning.
It's like, this isn't the White House. Like, we know what I live in DC. I know what the White House looks like. The president is not in the White House. Like, this looks like a neighborhood. So first off, I know something's wrong. right?
Yes.
And then you're like seeing the juxtaposition of the flashback world with the present world, and there's just something different between the two. And you don't expect the revelation that you get at the end of episode 1. There's nothing that points to that, and so you're like, oh my god. And for an illustration, it's very much like the Truman Show. That world with this dome with the fake sun, and it's all just kind of contained. They're dug into a mountain. They're literally in a mountain, dug in. We're not quite sure what kind of catastrophic event happened, because the flashbacks include, weather. They include like explosive flashes,
a bomb. Yeah, something happened. Something bad.
something
and they
happened.
Knew it was coming.
Right, and so and here's the key: Sterling K. Brown is cursed by existing in a world that has a living, breathing Denzel Washington in it. And because of that, he will never, ever, ever be seen as the preeminent male actor that he is. He is so brilliant. And he is so good at what he does in every character he plays. There's no bad Sterling K. Brown performances, even in bad movies with Sterling K. Brown in it. And so he carries this show from the minute it starts. Just think of the story of Us, like, This Is Us.
Yes.
He just carries it in that way.
Yeah.
And the characters are all being introduced. The world building is happening. There is going to be more bombshells, no pun intended, dropped with this story. I already love everything about it.
Me too.
I find it frighteningly compelling, which means I'm going to be very upset when this is over. My only beef, and this is that it's on Hulu.
Right.
And Hulu is like, next to Peacock, is the jankiest platform. Sorry, Hulu, but
I know. Like, what is up with their tech? Like, raise it up.
It's just not there.
It's not full HD or something, right?
I'm like, this should be on Max. This should be on Netflix. This should be, on some streaming service where there are more subscribers to see it, because I feel like, and I'll hand this off to David after this, I feel like I'm going to spend the next year telling people about this show who don't have Hulu, and they're going to go, I never heard of this. Where do I find it? And this might be the only thing people learn about that show who are of that community.
Right. Like, you got to get Disney Plus, and you got to up your prescription so that you can have your subscription, your prescription and your subscription.
No, you got it right.
So that you have
that executive order's coming too.
Yes. Oh, so that you have the full. So that you have the full thing. David, what was your first reaction to this show?
My first reaction is I love the writing, because all of the characters, the way that their lines are written is they are saying stuff, but you're not hearing what they're meaning. There's a lot of understated, underscored.
It has deeper. Everything they say is deeper.
And you can see the characters dancing around subjects for the first half hour, first 40 minutes, and I love the fact that every character in the show is messy. Everybody is a complete mess of a person. There's stuff going on between all of them. And I fell in love with Sterling K. Brown in Hotel Artemis, and again, that was a very smart script, a very smart setting, a lot of great world building, and I love the fact that the reveal of where they are and what they're going through happens in like the last minute and a half of the first episode. Up to that, it feels like, they're just in the middle, because when they talk about what's going on in Colorado, the first thing that popped in my head is like, this is a UFO event, or there's something going on, something strange, something otherworldly is going on. And then what the incident that really sort of bonds the president and Sterling K. Brown's character together is him actually taking a bullet for the president. And I love the reveal of that with him taking off his shirt, and you get to see the exit wound, and then you get to see the surgery scar. And the way they build the characters up and how they talk to one another.
Yeah.
Saying things without really saying stuff for the longest time. I mean, that kind of goes away in episode 2 and 3, but it's very hard for me to like this Sinatra character, even though I sympathize with her.
She just feels evil. She's a great actress.
But again, you completely understand why she is the way she is.
Yeah.
Because they do such a great job of showing her being like this whole vibrant person, and now she's this shell of a person.
Right.
And what they do with her hair, I don't know if that's a wig or what, but and she makes reference to how she's
pulling her hair and
scratching herself a bald spot because of it, and the ruthlessness of her mind of being able, okay, if we're going to save people, this is what we need to do, and this is what we need to do to make it happen. And I think it's in the first episode where she's talking to the guy, one of the architects on the plane, about if I gave you unlimited funds, unlimited, whatever resources to build a city underground or whatever, and he tells her it can't happen. You can't build a city for 25,000 people underground. You just don't have the logistics and whatever. And then they show you.
Right.
And I thought that was awesome. So
yeah,
the writing for me is top notch. And again, like Hilton said, Sterling K. Brown, he's a force, man. He is.
He's a force. Like this is it's so funny because every year, it's like I every month, like for whatever reason, if I'm looking for a movie and I don't want to like watch something brand new, but I want something familiar, I always watch the first Black Panther because I just love that movie so much. But I forgot how dope he was in that movie, and he was only in it for like a couple of minutes. He might have had
7 minutes.
Yeah,
7 minutes.
I have a little.
And it's like, what was that? What were you gonna say, David?
I have a little celebrity moment because I had tweeted that I had seen Hotel Artemis, and I had tagged him in the post saying, "This is a great movie. You haven't seen it? Go watch it. Sterling K. Brown is the best." And he actually responded saying, "Hey, thanks, man. That means a lot."
He's that guy. He is that guy.
I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool."
That's why he's dope. No, but like in that movie, like just using this as an example, because everybody's seen Black Panther at least 10 times. Like just that 7 minutes where we instantly understood this brother. We instantly understood Killmonger, who he comes from, who he was raised by, the loss of his father, what it meant. I mean, when Killmonger goes back to the ancestral plane and his father is waiting for him, and just Sterling sitting there on the floor and is like, what did I tell you about getting into my things? And just that moment, that one little speech and explaining how he wouldn't be welcomed in, Wakanda, it just made you understand. But it's like for actors, when you have very little, like just a small scene, and for you to do all these things in this tiny, in these very short minutes, but for you to do everything and for you to help us understand, why Killmonger, really give him depth and really give us understanding of him. Imagine what Sterling K. Brown is doing in this show. And he is the lead. And he is like on a mission. And I mean, literally, like you mentioned, everyone is messy, including him. Yeah. You realize that, because at first he comes off very stoic and very like unloving and like his kids, and he's just like, he's almost like a robot. But you're like, why is he this way? We find out, spoiler alert, that his wife didn't make the plane to get into paradise. Like
you learn so much. Like, you learn so much about his character in the first 2 minutes, which is nothing but silence and listening to the clock tick, and then him caressing the pillow next to him, and you understand completely what's at the center of who he is. That's great.
It's so good.
He gives these other actors, and I think this is also important. He gives, because of how good he is, he gives other actors a better palette to play their performance off of.
Yes.
He's one of those actors that makes everybody's performance better because they're playing off of him in the scene. And and I just, the emotion that you get, even stuff that you don't think you'd be emotional about, when he took the bullet for the president, like you saw the bond between them form. You saw like that connection without it being said, you're just like, oh my God, like these guys are like really connected, and this is going to be a part of the story going forward.
Yeah.
But I like the way this show is being written, because it gives a lot of faith to the intelligence of the audience. It's not sitting here, being screen tested for
crossing
we
every
need something to explode. It's been 5 minutes with no explosions. Like, they don't spell anything out. They just let you absorb it, and therefore it means more. We have that scene where Sinatra is talking to her dying son about answering he asked the question, am I going to heaven? And then, giving her permission to let go and describing heaven to him. And she said, it's basically anything that you want in your wildest dreams. So you tell me what heaven is going to be like. And he says, more horse rides. And then you flash to see all these coin-driven toy horses in front of all these stores. And you're just like, wow, she built this place with him in mind. Yeah. And you're just
this
like,
was his world.
Wow, this was the world that she is, at least in part, built for him. Because that was just, just to have that as a revelation is just big. And again, we're not anywhere near. We've barely cracked the surface.
3 episodes, like
where the story is going in 3 episodes, which is
we still don't even know what's going on all the way.
With as much revelation and as much air quote spoilers as we put forth here, you still don't know anything. You're still going to
we've not ruined
if you
anything
watch this
for
and
you.
go and watch this show. You're still going to be able to go through all the evolutions.
Yeah, feel all the things.
Knowing what we know. Yeah,
it's just getting its legs.
That's going to be
great use of music. Great use of music and sound design for the show is really, really good. How they do like alternative takes of popular songs. The president. Another Day in Paradise? Phil Collins.
Yes.
In Paradise. And I always feel bad.
Starship. Like I didn't think I got emotional to the opening of Built This City. Like what?
We built this city.
This doesn't fit in this.
Right, like what are we doing? But then at the end of episode 3, you understand.
You tell him.
I always feel bad for James Marsden because he never gets the girl, and in this one he's like dead from the beginning. So it's like, it's like a laugh. But they do the nice JFK kind of look to him, and the sort of Playboy president kind of atmosphere, and and then I think is it in episode 2? I think it's episode 2 where he asks, "Are you ever going to forgive me?" And such a And then Sterling,
he lost his best friend.
Yeah, and Sterling's answer to him about "I'll sleep when you're dead" is wow. Again, spoiler, I hate it, but
well, it is one of those things where you, in that moment, like we didn't know the full story, so we're like, why? How would they go from being like you saw where he like took a bullet for him? They were like best friends, and they were like they had this camaraderie, like and how do you go from that to where you tell the man to his face, "I'll sleep when you're dead"? Like it's like whoa, and then they're like they refer to them as his like that's our asshole, and they like nobody liked the president, and so you're like, what did he do that was so catastrophic to where everyone hates him? And then later on you find out what he did, or we at least get a glimpse of what he did. We kind of know why,
I want to ask you guys what you thought of the final moment of episode 3.
What was the final moment? I can't remember.
I can't lie.
In the shower with
episode 3.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No, I haven't seen episode 3.
I
tried to get to it.
Yeah,
no. I'll ask you later, then. I'll ask you.
Yeah, later. We'll ask you later, but no, it is.
Should I log out?
Yeah, right. Spoiler alert, Hilton. No, it was everything I wanted it to be, because it was like episode 3. You saw in episode 2 when they're kind of they have Sterling K. Brown. He's in this like they're kind of
interrogating him.
They're interrogating him to find out why did you wait 30 minutes to let us know that he was dead. Like they're basically trying to figure out what's going on and argue a part of it, because all they're really concerned about is this missing information. Like they're kind of sad that the president is murdered, but they're kind of like where's the secret?
That this is the first murder in this.
right
community.
And they won't even tell the community that he's been murdered. They're like, oh, he died of natural causes, because they don't want to scare them that somebody could be murdered in paradise. And so while he's being interrogated, the therapist comes in and she kind of takes over the questioning. She kind of pushes her way in and she goes, admit it. Aren't you happy he's dead? And then she shows on her hand where she says, say yes. And Sterling K. Brown reads her hand, the palm of her hand, and he's like, yes. Like, he goes with it. And then he has to know, like, episode 3, he goes and finds her and he's like, why did you tell me to say yes in there? I need to know. I know you now know more. And then we get this whole backstory of where, you know, she was very pivotal on creating Paradise. She came up with all these things to help people, since she's the therapist, to help them forget about them losing everything. And it's like, I'm going to, like, even down to like, oh, we've got this grocery store where you can do this, and we've got gardens, and then we have over 900 sounds of insects because it makes you feel like you're at home. And we even have chili fries or cheese fries, and these are the best cheese fries in the world. And he's like he's just kind of like, why am I doing this dance with you? Just tell me what I need to know. And so they go through this whole episode where they're kind of, she won't say, and then she kind of says, but then she won't. And so he's just like trying to get her to say. And so, of course, you feel the sexual attraction between them the whole time. So, again, of course, they start kissing. They get into the shower. It's this whole thing. And shout out to Sterling K. Brown's body. If Chrissy was here, she would be his naked body. Ladies, they threw one in for us, ladies. Sorry, Hilton and David.
We can edit that out in post, David.
If Chrissy was here, shout out to Sterling K. Brown's body. Anyways, back to what I was saying. And she finally, I won't ruin it for you, but she finally lets him in on something. But it's like she almost had to, I don't know if she's like worried somebody's listening, or like, it's just so like, it's such a cool episode.
That's the reason I brought it up, because I'm like going, remember, it's a thriller, so misdirect. Is it a misdirect? So, yeah.
Right. And and David, I want to pick up on your point, because everything we described is about the quality and the effect on us. This is a thriller. Like, this is you're really in here. It's like whodunit, you know, and everybody's got these weird ulterior motives and backstories
messy.
And the way they have choreographed the time jumps and the way they've choreographed the reveals just keeps us on our heels. Like, we can't get comfortable with anybody on the screen as they are presented, because we know nobody is as presented in the show. And we got burned in episode 1 because we're like, oh, it's like the West Wing, but with a younger president, and wow, and oh wait a minute, like, okay. And now we're like, what the hell just happened? I got invested in this love bromance between these guys. Like, that alone would have been a compelling enough story. Just the dynamic of this president.
And that was just scratching the surface. That's nothing. It's just what opened up the can of worms.
Surface, and then there's a hole in there. Like, it just goes away, like, you know, like cheap wallpaper. And now we're like, wow.
I told Karen before we started recording that hey, you know what this reminded me of? And I said, oh wait, I'll wait.
Yes, tell me.
So several years ago, Karen and I were bouncing an idea back and forth called Ikigai.
Yes.
And, Ikigai.
I was literally like, this is our script, David. Like, this is the world we were gonna build. See, we effed up.
The idea behind Ikigai is it's a Japanese term that means that you are right where you need to be. Your life is a wonderful combination of you're in the right job, in the right town, with the right people, and so everything is the way it's supposed to be. It's a blissful feeling, Ikigai. But the premise of our show, or the script that we had come up with, because I had to pull it down and reread it and go, oh, holy crap, was that it was in a small American town with a lot of people that knew each other, and there was a murder at the very beginning of a very prominent person in town, which leads to this unraveling of all the dark underbelly of what's going on in that town. And that's what it reminded me of. And I was
the perfection was just a front. There was like all bad things happening.
Because when, in the first episode, when Sterling goes out for a run and he says hi to his neighbor and they're very cordial to one another, we have been so used to tensions between people of different race or ethnicity in shows lately, and here we are suddenly presented with this like utopia where everybody gets along, everybody is smiling, everybody is happy, everything is clean. There's so much manicured lawns, and all the bushes are trimmed, and everything looks manufactured or kind of fake and everything. Like, there's something weird going on.
It doesn't even feel right. It doesn't even feel normal to be that perfect.
That's not the White House. That's and but later in the episode he goes, well, this is my last 4 years, and then I plan on retiring to a pool and laying there and doing all that.
And so he got what he wanted in paradise. But
but that's what it reminded me of. I was like, hey, that's icky.
Yeah.
And the reveal was so brilliantly hidden in the flashbacks. Like by the time we would be in the storytelling present enough to get uncomfortable with how perfect everything was, they would flash back to what ostensibly was presented as also this same world that was flawed enough and ugly enough and imperfect enough to go, okay, well, maybe this is just the way the sun shines in these scenes versus this scene. So we weren't, so we were kind of like placated. And then when the reveal happens, that's where the rug just gets pulled out from under.
Well, you get that really weird moment where everybody has those little watches and they ring them, and you're like, going, what is that all about? And
what is that? Right. And then you see sunrise will be delayed due to mechanical delay. We're like, what?
Right. Like, you're like, what's happening
here? Is that like
here?
a yoga session? What does that even mean? And then you're like, oh my gosh.
They pull back and you see the big arm of the light that's at the top of the dome.
The sun and the big, like, oh my gosh, it's the studio. Where's Ed Harris?
Right, exactly. Oh, yeah. So guys, I don't know what you're doing, but I strongly suggest if you're into thrillers, if you're into shows that that have like a slow drip, like have really good writing, really good actors. One of the scenes I don't think I even brought up was I love the scene with the daughter. It's Sterling K. Brown's daughter, and then it's James Marsden's son, and they I guess they go to the same school. And so of course, you think that this is a normal city. Like at one point I thought I was like in DC or something, but then I was like, no, we're not in DC. Like, what is it? Like, I was really trying to figure it out. And so there's only so many people that are there. And so when they want to announce that, James Marsden has died and he's passed away, and they're going to kick them this story. Oh, it's now he had a heart attack. It was awful. They say go to the convention center. And so all these people, it's the entire town goes and gets into this convention center, and they're all given the news at the same time. Well, the daughter, Sterling K. Brown's daughter, notices the son leaves and he goes in a different direction. And so she follows them, and they have this whole teenage moment where you could tell they're friends, but they're not really friends, but they know each other. And he mentions to her hey, they're about to say my dad has died, and I just didn't want to be in there for that and whatever. And so their conversation, and I think, she lost her mother, he's lost his dad, and that kind of immediately kind of pulls them together. And he's like, I want to show you something. You want to see something cool? And it's like, yeah. And so they go into this room, and it literally is like all of these planes. And one of the planes is, Air Force One. And so obviously they're in this cave. They can't fly a plane. And it's just so oh my gosh. And then we hear the song, We Built This City, because that was one of his favorite songs, and he's listening to his dad's favorite songs. It's just such a cool show. It's
really interesting how they show everybody is trying really hard to fit in and act normal.
Yes.
And you're just seeing the cracks of
No, there's nothing normal about this. Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
It's Pleasantville in that way, and you just don't. The human mind is not prepared for perfect things. Perfect things, even they tell you, psychologists will tell you, symmetrical faces would set you off, which is why you would tell if somebody were like a robot, hiding behind an AI's face because they would be symmetrical and that would be weird because we're used to imperfections in everything.
That's why the first Matrix failed. The first Matrix failed because it was perfect.
I didn't want to go that deep. I was going to go that deep, but I was like, I don't want to lose them. That's, but I forgot who was with me. But you're right.
Right. David will go there with
you. The Matrix was sublime, and the brain couldn't take it. We needed horror and tragedy, and this place is uncomfortable just in that way. And I'm talking about for us, the viewer, not even just us observing how people live in the world. They have done it so and shot the light. I don't know if it's the lighting or the grain or the treatment. There's just something about the way that world looks that just is unsettling as a set. Like I just was uncomfortable watching him jog because I was like, this is a dream sequence or something.
It's two 1950s.
And then you see the guy walking, 2 inches on the lake and the fake ducks, and you're like, what in the hell is going on? But I mean, the fact that we're talking about it this long is just a testament to how rich the story is and all the characters that are moving around, and they're actually giving us real pieces to digest, unlike Lost or From, which are stringing you along endlessly, to keep you viewing. Like we're actually we're getting to know these characters, we're getting to know this world, and we're getting to know it in ways that is not traditional storytelling. It is not linear. It bounces back and forth and back and forth.
Can't be linear, right?
But it's just
what I find so fascinating about it is like, okay, you have a underground city of 25,000 people who are acting as though nothing happened 3 years ago. They're going on with their lives. They're going to the store. They're buying food. They're cooking dinner. They're going to school. They're doing all the things that they would have done in the real world, but it's not the real world. And you're like, when is this thing going to crack? It's very interesting.
It's like the whole time we're hearing the crack.
We still have questions. I mean, one of the big questions.
I'm still confused.
Where did someone even get a gun? Because the Secret Service doesn't even have actual firearms. Are firearms a thing in this world?
He wasn't killed with a gun, though. He wasn't killed with a gun.
He was hit with the rock. Remember, he was hit with the rock.
Blunt force trauma is what it was.
Blunt force trauma.
Ah, okay.
He was bashed in the head.
Because when Sterling handed his gun before the interrogation system, goes, it's a glorified Nerf gun.
Yeah, that was my question. See, I got a question answered right here. Thanks.
There you go.
I love that sequence when he took the bullet for the president, because you see one of the reporters, the boom operator, take it down, and then they talk about, it's just a guy with a 3D printed gun or whatever. But that was really well done too. So.
Yeah, I know it makes me want to go back and rewatch the 3, and I will say the 4th episode I think just dropped. So guys, this is just the beginning. Just
my
the beginning.
Afternoon shot.
Yes, now we got something to look forward to. But we will come back to this series because it is that good, and I just feel like we have just scratched the surface. So we may have given you some spoilers today, but trust me when I tell you, we have not spoiled anything. This show is it's like an onion, and it peels slow. Like each layer.
There's a lot more going.
There's so much you don't know.
A lot more going on.
Like, what did you say? Like, you're still, like, trying to figure it out. I'm still confused. Like, I was like, okay, wait, what? Like you're literally trying to put it together because it's such a, like, it's not told linearly. So you're literally putting the pieces of this puzzle together as you watch. So, guys, go watch Paradise. It is amazing. I love it. And that's it for the show, guys. Oh, my God, David. We love having you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. We love you. Guys, thank you for watching the BOP, the Blurred Official Podcast. We love you. We mean it. Have a great weekend, or have a great week. Have a great life. We'll see you next time. Bye. Tune in every Tuesday for a new episode of the BOP, the Blurred Official Podcast.